Welcome to Whatif tutorials. This tutorial will cover activity overheads. What are activity overheads? Well, they are overheads that are driven by a specific activity, quite apart from overheads which are related to a machine's operation. A good example of this is quality control, where the driver may be a number of tests done, or in production planning, where the driver may be the number of plans generated. In this tutorial, we will have a look at how activity overheads are added in products. We will create an activity set, and we will create an activity overhead rate. First of all, let's have a look at the item master. Select a made item, click labor and overhead, and in this particular item you can see the last operation here is PP, production planning, and we have over here a rate of $4.65 as the overhead rate. The overhead rate is per activity driver. If we have a look at this item, we will see what it consists of. Its activity code is PP for production planning, and its driver unit is plans. The standard overhead per driver unit is $4.65. That's $4.65 per plan. The items per driver, or the driver quantity per item unit, determines what the activity cost is for this unit. For example, in this case, we've said that per plan we would get 50 of these items. 50 of these items would be covered per plan. So if we change this to 60 items, you can see that the driver quantity, that is the number of plans to produce 60 units, is 0.0167, or we change it back to 50, 0.0200. So we need 0.0200 plans. Multiplying by the cost per plan of $4.65 equals cost per item of 0.09. So that is how the cost of the activity is built into the product's labour and overhead. It shows up like any other operation, except of course there's no labour associated with it, just the overhead. Let's close that now. Now what I'd like to show you is how to create, or should I say, first of all, we have a look at the activities which we've got, and we've got just the two. As you can see, you can create a new activity of any activity you want, providing you can determine a driver unit for it. And in here, you can allocate an activity overhead set. In other words, there's two sets here that each have quality control overhead rates in them. Only one rate can be used for the activity. So if we choose this one here, $14.73, okay, that will be the current standard used for this activity when it's added to overheads. Okay, let's have a look now at calculating activity overhead rates. As just mentioned, there are sets. You create a new set, enter a description, date range, comments. We won't create one, we'll just have a look at an existing one. Let's say set 2. Click activity overheads, and in set 2 we have our two activities, production planning and quality control. If there was more activities, which there aren't, we could add them here. But it is, in this instance, we are sticking with those two existing activities. So let's have a look at the overheads in them. We click Edit and we open up the calculation for the activity overheads. The first part of it is to determine the activity, activity, if you want to put it that way, in terms of its driver unit. So first of all, we look at the number of days that this activity will be applicable in a year, number of shifts per day, and the number of hours per shift, so that the available hours for this activity is so much, 3,680. The driver unit is tests, and we're saying here, hey, we can do, in those hours, we can do 12,000 tests. But what resources do we need to produce 12,000 tests in a year with those hours available? Well, we need a number of people. We click on the number of people we require, click Add. We can add people individually from our employee list. Okay. Or we can add people in groups or in multiples. So in this case we might have planners, testers, lab assistants. How about that? Lab assistants, class 1, salary. So we've got 3 lab assistants at 90, taking us to 70,000. We want a title in there. Okay, whatever. Right, so now we've got 2 individuals plus we've got a group of people, a total of 5 in all, we're giving us an average salary of 91,802. So here this comes over, so that our total indirect labour base pay cost is that. Bonuses, allowances, we can enter or update. Add on some on costs, which covers anything like superannuation, payroll, tax, long service leave, etc., but not things like sick leave, long service leave, as these are included in the base pay. But put in some motor vehicle costs, some recruitment costs, and so on. Okay, we have 3 user-defined overheads. We can create new overheads here, overhead, or use an existing one. Let's say we use rent, and we put in our rent, 6123. And in all others, we've got some in here. We can add items in here to be included as all others. So at this stage we've got 2 items, 50 and 45, so that gives us our 95. So we've got our total overheads plus total indirect labour to give us a grand total, and the cost per unit of measure, that is the cost per driver unit, is 7404, which is the 885,000 divided by the quantity per annum. So that's how we calculate the overhead for this activity. Likewise for, close that. Okay, so this is how we create our overheads for each activity. So if we go now back into our activity for quality control, we look at it, we can see now that we've got it 7404. Okay, so now let's go back into our item master file, back into here, and to add quality control as an activity, we simply click add overhead, choose quality control at that rate of 74, which we just calculated, and can enter the driver quantity per item or the number of items per driver unit. In this case, how many items are there per test? A test would cover a number of items, maybe 60 items, or maybe 5 items, whatever. That then is multiplied by the cost per driver unit to give you the cost per item unit. Create another one? No. So there we are. That is how we treat activity overheads. They're used as an alternative to using machine-driven overheads because the activities have a direct correlation to a driver unit, which therefore gives you a more fair and accurate cost from product to product. Some products may be extremely quality sensitive and require a lot of testing, whereas others may require very little. So that is it as far as this tutorial is concerned. Thank you very much for listening.